I have a bunch of rainbow trout and salmon. We're smoking a big batch here, and we're going to show you how to smoke these. So the first thing we're going to do when we smoke these trout is we're going to give them a good rinse off. So we're just rinsing them off, and then we're dropping them into a bucket down below. Here are the ingredients that we use when we're smoking fish. We use 1 pound of the cheapest salt we can get, plain salt, and we use 6 pounds of brown sugar. I always look to see what's the cheapest of that as well. I use 5 tablespoons of ground black pepper, and I use 1.5 tablespoons of garlic powder, and we're substituting garlic salt today. You'll need to make the conversion to what size batch you're gonna make, but that's what we use. So I'm trying to get as much water out as I can. So now we've pat dried these fish. Next, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our fish and we're just gonna lay them across the bottom of our container. And then I have all the ingredients mixed here. And then we're just gonna take some of this, and then we're just gonna spread this across the top of these fish. And then what ends up happening is this will pull the moisture out of the fish, and this will just end up being all soupy and wet inside of here. So we'll just put a bunch of brown sugar in between these fish layers. So then I sprinkle that over all of them, and then I'm gonna rub that in. It's gonna end up dissolving, and it's gonna pull the moisture out of the fish, and then it's gonna make this brine, and you can see right down here, there's like a liquid already starting. We'll end up sitting in that, and that's gonna be our brine that we soak these fish in. Now I've let these sit for about an hour, and you can see that there's a briny solution here, so these are all soaking in that. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stick my hand down into the corner here, and when you do that, you're gonna feel crystals still that haven't dissolved. I like to take those and bring those back to the top, and then have them work their way kind of back through and re-dissolve. Top layer skin up, push to make sure that I have everything in that brine solution and that nothing's sitting above it. Now that I pushed those down, I've made 3 containers with ice, and I set those on there, and then I'm just gonna set the cooler cover on top and let that sit overnight. So these have been sitting in here for about 12 hours, and you can see most of the ice is melted away, so I'm going to empty those out. All that sugar and salt solutions pulled the moisture out of the fish, and now they're sitting in like a liquidy brine, and that's what they've been sitting in for 12 hours. So we're going to pull these out and give them a good rinse. And then I'm just setting them into a container here. I lay these fish out, and I actually use a towel, and I just put the skin side down, and then I'm just going to take a paper towel, and I pat these dry. And then after I've done that, next I'll lay these pieces, and I'll just rub the brown sugar into these. And then what's gonna happen is this brown sugar is gonna suck the moisture out, so these will actually start getting drippy. Here's one you can see. And then I just lay these out across a oven rack. It's gonna pull that moisture out of the fish, and you can see it's kind of pooled up on some of the fish here, but it's also dripping down. Another thing that you can do is you can put it on top of your oven, and there's a little lip on the oven, so then all that moisture will stay in there, and it's easier to clean as well. I turn a fan on. I'm gonna let that sit here for a few hours. Let these kind of harden on the outside so it's dry, and then I've taken a knife and I've cut it so that way I can hang these on my rack. You're always looking to save space when you're smoking. This allows me to get way more fish on. Because my racks are deeper, I'm able to drop those fish down the long way. I was able to get all of these fish on there. If I wanted to, I could lay them flat across the top of these as well and even get more fish on here. Now that I'm putting the fish in, I'm going to put the thicker piece on the bottom because it's actually warmer the closer you get towards the bottom as the heat comes up. Next, I take about 1.5 feet of aluminum foil, and then I have some pellets for a pellet smoker and some wood chips, and then the wood chips seem to burn a little quicker, so I mix those together, and then I'm going to wrap that up. I put a bunch of holes in it, and then I'm going to put that out on the coals, and those are really nice pieces. They're dry on the outside. These are perfect.